You know the great thing about the Wii and Wii U's Virtual Console? I can revisit my childhood NES games that took a bath in rubbing alcohol to get working when I was a kid, and would probably take a blood sacrifice to get working now. Back in the day, I'd play Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, and it'd be a race to see what died first, my turtle or the graphics engine. But I loved those games anyway, and today I'm going to revisit two games that I remember fondly from my youth. Startropics and its sequel, Zoda's Revenge. People always say I need to do more positive reviews, so if this video sucks, you've got nobody to blame but yourselves. In Startropics, you play as Mike Jones, a kid who visits his archaeologist uncle on the tropical sea island. The locals tell you your uncle went missing about the same time the nearby island started filling up with monsters, so they hand you a yo-yo and send you to go rescue him. Yeah, your main weapon is a yo-yo, renamed the Island Star in the Virtual Console release because yo-yo is a trademark name. The justification is that Mike is an ace pitcher for his school's baseball team, but I doubt if you gave Adam Wainwright a yo-yo, he'd be able to go fight demons with it. What follows is a strange odyssey as you explore the islands and battle legions of monsters to rescue your uncle. The story is pretty neat as you encounter strange cultures, and there's a sense of wonder and mystery as you traverse these exotic islands. There's some fun pop culture references thrown in too. The co-pilot of your submarine looks like Rob the Robot, probably the only useful thing Rob ever did on the NES. The island chiefs are designed like Mario, Luigi, and Wario. Your uncle is an archaeologist named Dr. Jones, and there's an entire dungeon with traps straight out of Raiders of the Lost Ark. The music is pretty sweet too. Startropics is a dungeon crawler, kinda like The Legend of Zelda. The action is played from an overhead perspective as you make your way through dungeons screen by screen, fighting enemies until you get to a boss. There are significant differences from most games of this style though. Startropics dungeons are much longer than Zelda, and you can jump, leading to a major emphasis on platforming. There's a ton of tiles you have to jump across looking for switches and items, and there are times you have to jump over enemies as they charge at you, all while being careful not to accidentally leap into water that you somehow drown instantly in. Shit! Jump too early. There's a great variety to the levels, and most of them are built around puzzles. There are rooms that are dark and you have to use enemy movement patterns to figure out where you can go, a dungeon with fake exits so you have to constantly search for secret passageways, dungeons that loop around so you have to look for context clues to find secret paths, and there are several dungeons built around special weapons, like a weapon that splits into two projectiles, mirror shields, and rods that reveal invisible enemies. I do wish the mirror shields and the baseball bat weapon didn't have a delay that got you killed though. Damn! You get 3 lives and unlimited continues. There are checkpoints in each dungeon, but if you lose all your lives, you go back to the start of that dungeon. You move like you're locked down on a grid, but it works for the puzzle setup of the game. It makes precise movements really easy. My problem with the controls, though, is that movement is really stiff. Every time you try to turn while walking, you stop dead in your tracks for half a second. It's good because it lets you aim in a direction without moving in that direction, but it makes running away from enemies a titanic pain in the ass because you pause every time you make a simple turn. Another problem is with the jumping. Unless you're crossing a gap or jumping over tiles, you can only jump straight up and straight down. It severely limits your movement, and there are options for outmaneuvering enemies because it's so difficult to get your ass in gear when you need to. But the controls are like Michael Keaton's Batman suit. You get used to the stiffness and learn to work with it pretty quickly. Just have to adapt your strategy so you're only fighting enemies in an advantageous position. Chasing down enemies is a surefire way to get yourself killed because you're so stiff. You have to study and exploit enemy patterns. The mosquitoes move diagonally, best to ambush them by the walls. The snakes charge you if you touch your direct line of sight, so jump them if they're too close. These chicken skull things are too fast to evade, so you force them to jump ponds so you can get a free shot at them. You have to strategize and play it safe. Leave yourself plenty of room to run when you need, and you need to learn when to just say screw it and dash for the exit when things go sideways. The one big major problem with the game, and where a lot of its difficulty comes from, is the way it handles health. No matter how long your life bar is, you always spawn with only 3 hearts, like 2 or 3 hits away from death, and health pickups are rare. Usually there's 1 or 2 set locations per dungeon where the game will give you some health back, but most of the time you're just shit out of luck. The enemies almost never drop health. If you're lucky, they'll drop stars. What do the stars do? Well, you collect 5 of them and then it gives you 1 heart back. Are you kidding me? The game is so stingy with its health pickups that it gives you 20% of 1 unit back if it's feeling nice? There are hidden rooms where you can find potions, which you can use later to recover 5 hearts, but they don't come back when you die, and checkpoints are usually arranged so that you can't go back for them. At times, you're honestly better off starting a whole dungeon over to make the potions reappear. Midway through the game, your yo-yo gets upgraded to have double the strength and range, but the power-up is only active if your health is at 6 stars or more. The game gets a little more generous with health at this point, but still, it doesn't take much to kill you, and your weapon goes to shit if you take a few hits. I'm all for puzzles, I'm all for challenge, but there are times the game just pulls major bullcrap on you. Take the first dungeon, for example. You go through this room off to the side, you find a potion. It leads to another room with another potion. It leads to another room where you immediately fall to your death with the skulls of every other schmuck who fell for that trap. Enemies respawn when you exit a room, so you can be 24 rooms deep in a dungeon and forced to start over because you don't find the secret exit in time before the enemies kill you. The game has try your luck signs that either give you lives or take them away, and I swear my first playthrough the game, these damn things took away my lives about 90% of the time. One dungeon has a false exit that sends you back to the entrance, and it's right next to the real exit, just baloney traps you have no way of beating without dying first. Oh, come on! 2 paths, one safe, the other kills you. What the shit? Puzzles are one thing, but a lot of this is just pure, unabashed trial and error. Navigating the overworld is pointlessly overcomplicated. When I was a kid, I couldn't start the second level of the game. You're dumped on this island where every path leads to a dead end. Want to know where you go? There's a secret path through the mountains, and your only clue there's anything there is one tiny line of discolored pixels that blends in with the ground. Several towns don't let you talk to a key NPC until you've talked to everybody in the town with no hint telling you this, and no one ever has any interesting information to tell you, and there's invisible pathways or invisible doors everywhere. Can't you just see Mike walking into a wall because the guy controlling his brain can't see the door for the overhead perspective? The hard part of playing a game shouldn't be figuring out where the game is, though I will say the puzzle to get into the Chapter 5 dungeon is pretty neat. The mother of all dick moves comes in Chapter 4. This level has no dungeons. You waste time wandering around empty whale intestines because this level is a reference to the tale of Jonah. But at the end of the level, you're prompted to enter a 3-digit code to track a transceiver in your uncle's shoe and continue the game. You will not believe where you get the code from. Attached to the back of the original game's instruction booklet is a letter from Mike's uncle. It's a cool little extra to add immersion, but there's something at the bottom of the letter that always fascinated me. Keep this note until the end of the game. It's so mysterious. It makes you feel like you're holding really important shit. All these years later, I finally found out what that means. If you pour water over the note, it causes invisible ink to appear and tell you the code. This is a thing that just happened. If you lost that note or never had it in the first place, like you rented the game or bought it used, then you had absolutely no way of playing the entire second half of the game. There's no other way to get the code unless you obsessive-compulsively try all 1,000 possible answers, like anyone's gonna try that. I'm told this was intended as an early form of copy protection. Nintendo, one of the first innovators of console-wide DRM. When trial and error gameplay meets super easy to die, the game without doubt can be tremendously difficult, but the difficulty never feels unfair or overwhelming. Most of the time when you die, you feel like an idiot because you know it was usually your own fault, and you want to keep going because you can see the way forward. You know full well what you did wrong and how to make progress. The game pisses you off, but not so much that it makes you want to quit, because you're more trying to master yourself than master the game, and the thrill and satisfaction of working so hard and finally beating a dungeon is just great. Playing through this game for a video, I spent an hour trying to beat Chapter 5, but I didn't quit because victory is always tantalizingly just within your reach. Crap! Tapped the wrong direction. Ah, the floor collapses too quickly to grab more than one health refill. Yeah, this voodoo lady brings you back to life when you die. Kinda creepy to think how Mike actually dies all these times and just keeps getting brought back. No, tap the wrong direction. Crap. Oh, that was a bad idea. Okay, jump the spears, use the side tunnels to dodge the bowling ball, go 90-degree angles to avoid double stacking the balls. You mother! Ooh! Jump spears, dodge ball, go 90 degrees, jump as soon as you enter this room. Another bowling ball. Come on, through the tunnel. Ah! Need to tend the balls more closely. Okay, spears, side tunnels, 90 degrees, jump quickly, beat the ball savagely, use the side tunnel, get around the ball. Shit! Okay, spears, tunnels, 90, jump, whack balls. Where the hell is the frickin' exit? Get off! I can't get him off! Die, you piece of... Spears, side, 90, jump, beat balls, move while killing the balls. Yes! Booyah! Eventually, you find Dr. Jones, and he tells you that an alien escape pod fell to Earth carrying the last surviving members of a race called the Argonians. The invaders that wiped them out have followed them to Earth, led by the evil General Zoda. You fight through the alien spaceship, fighting the toughest enemies yet with long-range weapons, plus the only level in the game that's set up like a legitimate maze. So you sit down and you draw yourself a map, like all old-school gamers did. I've gotten to Zoda, but never beaten him. You have to fight Zoda, who kills you in one hit, then you fight the ship's reactor core, which heals if you don't kill it in one straight shot, basically forcing you to sit still and get the shit beaten out of you, and then fight Zoda's final form without getting a real chance to heal from the reactor. Unless you count farming these little bastards that beat the shit out of me. This level has no checkpoint, so if you die at any point during these 3 bosses, you get sent back to the beginning. This is my limit. This, sadly, is as far as I can go. Startropics is a fantastic game, and even if I can't land a finishing blow, I still really enjoy it. For my money, though, I was always a much bigger fan of the sequel, Zoda's Revenge, Startropics 2, one of my favorite games. If you actually kill Zoda in the first game, you rescue the last members of the Argonians. In Zoda's Revenge, Dr. Jones is busy trying to decode an Argonian cipher when he activates a magic spell that sends Mike back through time. It's up to Mike to time travel through 7 periods of history, collecting magical blocks that will restore the king of the Argonians and save their race, all the while fighting more aliens led by 3 resurrected clones of Zoda. The story is a lot more interesting and compelling as there are more clear overarching goals, and the game has a lot of fun with the time travel gimmick as you interact with famous figures like Cleopatra and Sherlock Holmes. It's worth noting the magic blocks are in the shape of the classic Tetris blocks and named Tetrads, but had to be renamed to just blocks for the Virtual Console because the Tetris company will sue anybody under the sun. Funny how both games managed to get in trouble for random copyright crap. One of the things that I just love about Zoda's Revenge is that it has a delightfully zany sense of humor. Mike just straight up tells you to go read the instruction manual if you don't know the game's backstory. Cleopatra offers to help you in your quest if you track down the pizza delivery boy that got lost on his way to Rome. Now, this almost makes sense because Cleopatra was married to one of Rome's rulers, and pizza-like foods date back to that time period, but any pretense of being sort of true is dropped when the pizza comes in a cardboard box from Caesar's hut. Or how about in the Wild West when you're blasting away walls and finding gold nuggets when you just randomly find a chicken nugget in one of the caves? Delicious, but nothing happens. Why the hell did Mike eat some raggedy-ass chicken nuggets sealed in a cave and covered in dirt? Isn't it rotten? Or is it a McDonald's chicken McNugget that can survive for centuries with 0 protection? The references are back with a vengeance, too. The pizza delivery guy is riding a Koopa straight out of Mario. You visit the Renaissance period, and Leonardo da Vinci gives you a katana, and in Transylvania, you fight mummies and Frankenstein monsters straight out of Castlevania. Okay, that's funny. You also fight one of Zoda's forms, who looks and acts like Dracula from the same series. You want to keep going just to see what the game does next, to see where you go and what antics ensue. Some people were upset that you're not exploring islands like you were in the first game. Oh, darn. Now you can actually tell a difference between any 2 levels. Every control issue from Startropics has been fixed. You're not locked on a grid, and not only do you turn on a dime, making movement super smooth and responsive, but you can move and shoot diagonally, which is a very helpful tactic against enemies that usually use the cardinal directions. You can also move while jumping, which comes in really handy for dodging enemies. You're just overall much more agile than you were in the first game, and it makes the action a lot more fun to play. You can react faster, maneuver around enemies more quickly. The game handles like a dream. Which is good because now, unlike the first game, most of the enemies fire projectiles you have to dodge. The first game was all about planning ahead so you didn't get trapped by enemies. Here, it's much more of a straight action game, mixing strategy and reflexes, maneuvering around enemies, landing what hits you can, while being agile enough to dodge attacks when needed. You have 2 weapons, a psychic wave that upgrades and is tied to your health like the last game, and either a dagger or Leonardo's katana. You get that joke now, don't you? This way you have a backup weapon so you're not boned at low health, plus the bladed weapon does more damage than the shockwave and is so big it's easier to hit enemies, and I think it has a slightly longer range. But the shockwave fires much more quickly so you're not screwed if you miss your target, so it's all about switching weapons to fit the situation. Sadly, the varied side weapons from the first game are gone. Every now and then the game will give you bolas or this spiky top thing, which have a lot more range than either of your default weapons, but these weapons deal so little damage, I often find you're far better off using your default weapons and just risking the closer range. But while there's no variety to the weapons anymore, the enemy variety still keeps the action fresh. Enemies don't have discernible patterns anymore. You're gonna need those improved controls because the gameplay revolves much more around reaction and quick thinking than it did last time. But after all the improvements made over Startropics, there's one major flaw that's been added to the game as well. There's almost zero after-hit invincibility. If any enemy touches you, you're basically guaranteed to take 2 or 3 hits and lose a significant chunk of health before you can get away. One little mistake or lapse of judgment on your part, and you could screw yourself for the rest of the dungeon since your main weapon is weaker at low health. The game seems a little nicer with the health than the first one though. Now you spawn with 5 hearts, which is enough for the souped-up shockwave. The game seems to give you more health drops, and there's often multiple potions before you reach bosses, and the try your luck signs are rigged to never take away your lives. But most of this help is cancelled out by the lack of the after-hit invincibility. You get more health, and then lose it more quickly when you screw up, so it's kind of a wash as to which game is more difficult. The game seems to really get generous with the health once you get the super shockwave towards the end, which just murders everything in your wake. Ha ha, you can't get me. There's still a few times where navigating the overworld gets annoying. There's a clever, though irritating maze where you can't see the path unless you find a high platform. The Wild West level gets on your nerves where you have to keep bombing random holes in a wall until you finally find the damn dungeon, and I really don't understand the Sherlock Holmes chapter where you get thrown in jail, immediately find a hidden exit, and then just walk back out. But where there's bullshit, it's typically much less annoying than Startropics bullshit. Zoda's Revenge does have some puzzles, but they're much simpler and much fewer in number than the first game. There's no secret passages, no fake exits or paths that lead to pits, nothing cheap like that. About the full extent of the puzzles is the dungeon in Leonardo da Vinci's basement, some dungeons with false floors and a non-linear layout, and some platforming routes here and there. Shit! Everywhere else in the game, you walk to a ledge and you stop before you walk off of it. But these rafts in Sherlock's chapter and another later dungeon, you can walk right off the edge of this platform and die by complete accident. And just like the last game, you run out of lives, you start the dungeon over, and Sherlock's chapter has one of the hardest bosses in the game, so you'll be doing this jumping crap a lot. This oversight turns fun jumping puzzles into major bullshit. By the way, this time it's Merlin bringing you back to life when you die, but you're not told who he is until the end of the game. Kind of weird, you just see this anonymous wizard reviving your mutilated corpse over and over again for no reason. The game's emphasis is much more on frantic combat than puzzles, and I'm totally fine with the change. Startropics was a test of your mind, Zoda's Revenge is a test of your skill. Both different, but both excellent in their own ways. There's always a trick to Startropics. Everything's a puzzle with a solution. There's no trick to Zoda's Revenge. It's just you and your wits to get by. Unless you count being able to jump and dodge all the projectiles automatically. That is a nice trick. Zoda's Revenge ends by returning to Sea Island and replaying the first level of the first game, complete with a rematch with the zombified first boss of Startropics and a kick-ass remix of Startropics' theme. The game ends with you fighting every major boss in the game in a row with no downtime in between battles, only the bosses have less health than their original forms, and if you do a ton of persistent jumping, you can grab several potions and full health before you start the gauntlet. Again, the game is tough, but fair. This is it. I can't let both games beat me. It's the final countdown. Let's do this! Okay, first 3 bosses are easy. Just abuse the new long-range weapon while staying back far enough to dodge their attacks. Oh god, I always suck at fighting Zoda X. You fight him on a floor that's full of random conveyor belts, and he makes pillars of fire appear that can sap most of your health in one shot. Just have to jump in place if you raise his arms. Gotcha! Just keep away as far from the miner as possible. Oh god, there's no way to avoid getting stunned. Die. Yes! Okay, Dragon's easy if you remember to run like hell when he lowers his head. Gotcha! Final boss is Zoda Z. Bring it on! Shared! No bacon, no bacon, no bacon for you! No bacon for you! Crap, 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 crap! Last 2 potions! Make them count! Final form! We're doing fine! We're doing fine! We'll be okay as long as we keep away and keep jumping his attacks! Come on! Come on! Come on! Yeah! Woo! Yes! Neither Startropics nor Zoda's Revenge are perfect games. They're not always hard for the right reasons, they can have some downright baffling design choices. The first game has really stiff controls to deal with, and the second game can deeply screw you for making one simple mistake. But damned if I don't really like both games. The action is fun, encouraging planning, strategy, and quick thinking to succeed. The first game with its barrage of puzzles is very stimulating and rewarding to play, while the second game with its super responsive controls and fast-paced, high-octane action is a great action game, and they're both a ton of fun to play. Zoda's Revenge in particular is one of my favorite games, both for its smooth gameplay and its sense of humor, but both games are worth checking out. Sadly, the Startropics series died after these 2 installments, and there's been no plans to revive the series, despite, as far as I know, Nintendo still owning the license. But Lord knows, I'd love to see Mike Jones again someday. Until then, well, it's been a hell of a ride.